What's up, YouTube? First and foremost, this is my first video. Alright, so this is an HP Photosmart 8250. It's just a printer somebody gave me. I can't remember what it was. Sometimes I try to one has card reader access here, so we've got a couple of different formats. There's CF, compact flash, XD, MS, and then SD. I'm focused on the SD right here. I can take the slot out, desolder it from the board itself, and use it for a different application. Or sometimes you can just cut the board out, leave it soldered, just cut the board, and then tap into the individual copper traces on the board. So for all the Arduino or any microcontroller guys out there for that matter, you can take these and modify them and use them. These communicate via SPI, so they're very easy to access. This is obviously an older printer. I don't know if the new printers have the micro SD slots. I'm not too big into the photo printer thing, so I don't really know. However, you can take a micro SD obviously and put it into an SD adapter and use this for whatever projects you may have. So you have tactical feedback buttons here. You've got kind of like a click button here. So some of these may be useful. If not, this screen, it's a small screen. I don't know if it's touch. I didn't get the power supply with this printer, so I don't think it's this touch. But once we get this screen off, we'll see what's in it. Maybe might be able to salvage it and use it for a future project. So obviously, when you take on a project like this, first thing you want to do is take out the ink cartridges, all the auxiliaries, trays, stuff like this. Just take them off, toss them. So since we're not keeping this, break some of this stuff off. Some of these you might be able to get some important stuff or some good stuff off of these. A lot of times sometimes they do have some. I don't really see any stuff. Some rollers here, but it's not anything worthwhile. Some plastic pieces. So looks like this is all just going to get recycled. Just thrown away. This tray is fastened to the lower frame, so we'll have to get that off later. Oh, which by the way too, whenever you start these projects, it's always a good idea to have some sort of bit set. Something like this. This is a security versus what is this? Yeah, security bit set. Just a 100 piece. It's called a security bit set, but not all these bits are actual security bits. These are security because they have the holes in the middle. These as well. These are regular hex, SAE hex, standard hex, metrics. These are torques, and then you've got your safety torques. A couple of oddball 2-hole square drive. The assortment of Phillips, and these are posi drives. I forget what these are called, but these triangular ones. So you've got all these different ones. These are good to have. Oh, you got triple square here, or the also known as XYZ. So I'm seeing the screws here on the bottom. This back cover, some rollers in here. Might be able to use those for something. So, which brings me to another point too. If you have access to a 3D printer, if you already have a 3D printer, obviously you know what kind of doors that opens up for you. It gives you the ability to basically really just to make anything and everything you can think of. These wheels right here, you can use these. Say you're building a little remote control car, something that has a pivoting wheel that's not powered. You can take one of these and you can 3D print a carrier for that, some sort of support or whatever this thing can snap into. So we'll probably take these out. I've got plenty of these, but just for the sake of the video, we'll take those out. Which, yeah, by the way, I've got these little bins here. So I've got a lot of these that are just full of different things. And these are obviously gears and rollers of that sort. All kind of different shapes and sizes. So we can create all kind of good stuff with that. Let's start by taking off these screws here. Put those in this. Let's take these harnesses off here. So we'll keep in mind too where the plugs go. Pretty easy. Sorry, where the wires go to where in the printer they go to, what they power. Sometimes you can find the drivers on this board here. What I do go after, these inductors here. So you see these here. These are always good to have. You can use them for a variety of things. This battery, we're going to take this battery out. These batteries. So these will get desoldered here. The ferrite core inductors here. These have excellent uses. I mean, and then the best part about it is they're free. So that's really what I enjoy the most out of this. Is you can get some decent stuff for not a whole lot of money and not a whole lot of effort. So we'll put this off to the side. And by the way, this was that control panel I took off. This screen I haven't separated yet, but I just flipped one of these over just real quick. So there's some push buttons in there. You can remove those push buttons if you really need a whole bunch of push buttons. These are excellent sources for that. You could keep this whole entire tray here, and if you wanted to just make some kind of makeshift button control panel, I mean, they're here. So since there's just regular switches in here, I imagine there's probably not a single controller or a chip of any sort on here. It's probably just nothing but an array of buttons. So obviously you can just split this ribbon cable and solder. Oh, it's tiny, and you might not be able to do that with these. So maybe you might have to desolder the buttons and use them for a later application. However, free. And I know I mentioned about the drivers earlier. We're not going to chase those on the board. It's not worth the hassle. We are going to look at the motors that we have in here. So that's just a regular DC motor, looks like, but you'll feel it. Yeah, it's a regular motor here. Nothing special there. There's this one in here for the printhead. This one I do believe is a stepper motor of some sort. This thing's, there's probably a big release mechanism in here to let this thing move. I have no idea where it's at or what the case is. We'll figure that out. This right here, this is what I was talking about, these machine shafts. These, you can use these for just anything really, any kind of application you can think of that requires. So you can use these if you want to build your own CNC router table, or a small, maybe a laser engraver or plasma cutter, something small frame. So this from here to here is, I'm just eyeballing it, approximately 18 inches, so 17 inches or so, it looks like to me. You can use the bronze bushings that are in here, the slider bushings that come out of this print head. You can use those. You can cut them out and then reuse them into your 3D printed part. There's these little spring detents. These are what apply pressure to the, you might be able to see in there, right there. See right here? These little springs. Take those out and use them for some of the project, whatever you might have. I'm not keeping all this stuff. I'm gonna try to figure out how to get, so here's another example of that too. This is rotary wheel. I couldn't tell you what the proper term in the printing industry for this, but in the industries I've worked in, this is could be called a positioning wheel or reluctor wheel. It's very hard to see, but this translucent black strip here, it's actually very, very tiny black lines. And so as this rotates, those lines obviously interrupt the light passage here, and that's how it counts. So this, one of these is probably, there's another darker section here. It's halfway. This is 180 degrees. This is a semicircle here. And this is just like overall positioning. This is probably a limit detection. So it's supposed to operate within 180 degree swing for whatever particular function. A lot of these printers, what I've noticed is that they'll have one of these shafts that does a multitude of functions. They have clutches and other armatures and stuff that move in and out, and I guess for feeding paper and then pulling it back and doing other stuff. So a lot of different things, but just in my adventures of mutilating printers, this is the kind of stuff you come across and see. So we can get this further apart and we'll see what it is, if we have any steppers in here. I don't think any of these are steppers. I don't see classical. No, this is my 5-wire. That goes, oh, that goes back to the other side. This one. So anyways, we'll take this apart and see what we can do with it. See what we find. Alright, so this is where I'm at. Last little bit that's left. I don't know what you'd call this. I guess it's a feed assembly, possibly. All the rollers and whatnot. So another little spring here, lateral spring, or linear spring, sorry, not lateral, linear spring. I want to point out, so yeah, you should probably think about that when you take apart printers. There is ink involved. Luckily, this is just a workroom. This is an office, so it's not a big deal. It's nothing that's not dirty, I guess you could say. But yeah, if you're picky about getting your hand dirty, or maybe you're in a very clean environment that needs to stay clean all the time, then keep that in mind. This is one of probably 12 rollers that came out of this printer. So these are, got a steel shaft on them. They're rubber texture. That's a rubber drum. You could use these for, who knows? The possibilities are endless. However, it's just to go to show there's some value in these printers. You can get this kind of stuff. I mean, I couldn't think of anything on top of my head that you could use this for, but surely surely that won't take long to figure out. So as I figured, none of these are stepper motors. The dead giveaway was this one needs this wheel for positioning. So if it were a stepper motor, it more than likely wouldn't need this wheel. However, it does. And it's not a big deal. I mean, the motors that came out, these can all be used. They're small little motors. We can use them for whatever the case may be. This is a pump assembly, as I figured, and I had a pump in it. It's a micro pump right here. If you can see that. But what's interesting is that this motor has another wheel on the back of it with another photo sensor back here. So this one has a lot of slots. This wheel has some slots cut off. You can see that or not. So obviously you can use this. There's a 5-pin harness that goes there. So I believe it's this one here. This nice part about taking this stuff apart is that you have everything that goes with it. So that's the plug there. So all you gotta do is, once it's all said and done, you can just take the wires out of this, cut them where you need to cut it, and you can utilize this motor now. Now you've got a way of detecting position, I guess steps if you want, or RPM. You can get an RPM count off of this. Whatever you need to do, it can be done. So this belt tensioning system, this is a cheesy, just a stamped metal tensioning system. I guess it works. This pump, I have no idea what could be used, what could be made out of this, but this is a shaft that I found. Don't know how much use it could be in the future, but it's a shaft with 2 gears that are stamped on it. They're pressed on, so if not, you can always take the shaft off and use the shaft individually. Also, another thing too, those of you that are machinists or have access to a machine shop or a buddy with a lathe, or possibly you guys have lathes, you can obviously take these shafts and turn them down to whatever you want. So this is the main one for the print head. I didn't mic this, but it looks like a 10mm shaft. I would guess it's 10 millimeters, possibly 3/8, but it's a machine shaft. Couldn't tell you what it's made out of. I'm judging by the color, and I guess it's a stainless, but it doesn't really matter. Anyways, it's a solid shaft. There it is, free, cost you $0. So this will get used for some other project. Another thing too is, I forgot to mention earlier, is that whenever you take the motors off, it's a good idea to leave the screws in. That's something I figured out after a while. You start having an idea for a motor and you want to use it, and then you realize that you don't have the screws, and you're hunting for screws, and even if the screws don't fit, now you still have to find screws that fit to get thread pitch measurement if you need longer, shorter, whatever the case is. This just makes it that much easier. Now you have a reference. So if you do need to go the route and buy different screws or use different screws that you have in your arsenal, this is far faster and easier to just remove one, thread pitch gauge it, and then you'll get what you need. So another DC motor. That's that. And then all the little bits and pieces that are here. I'll just take this apart even more. And so there's some springs in here. I'll get the springs out, these belts, whole gear sets right here. These are just gears upon gears upon gears. There's gears all throughout here. And then they're also right on little steel shafts as well. So again, this is what makes it valuable, because these shafts can be used for various amount of things. Here's another shaft here, another steel shaft of some sort. That one there. There's another motor in here as well. This one has another one of those clear plastic discs with the slots colored into it. So again, this is also not a stepper motor. And you can feel these too. I think it's got some sort of gear reduction in there. Yeah, it does. So it's spinning very, very quickly. Interesting. Those belts too, another thing I forgot about. I always keep the belts because they match to the drive sprockets that are pressed onto the motors. You can always use these for if you need to rotate something. Doesn't necessarily have to loop around an adjacent pulley or whatever. You can always cut these, like one of these pinch points, you can cut them and then stretch them out, and you can screw this or clamp this down or staple it to, I don't know, say you're trying to make a panel that swivels and you want to use a motor to swivel it, kind of like I guess think of like an oscillating fan that you find on the wall, you know, like you find in bars or whatnot that cycle back and forth. But you can use something like this to control that fan, or control the movement. Use this to actuate the movement. So you know, whatever you can think of. It's the point is that you should keep these. These are valuable. I wouldn't even have the slightest idea where to buy a replacement belt. So keep it. If you've got the space, keep it. If you don't, well, then figure something else out. But all these little bands here, these belts, always keep them. You never know. Anyhow, that's that. That basically wraps up this first video of mine.